Dewo.
Dewo.
Dewo is an Igbo Nigerian word that means long life to you. And that is what I hope and pray for each and every one of you gathered here today underneath the sound of my voice. Thank you and welcome to Chiism Live.
Welcome.
And it is my pleasure to introduce my, first of all, I'm Dibia, Dr. Onyioha-Osimiri.
Yes.
And my co-host today, as always, is Dibia Ochuaja, UD Onyioha. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, pleasure's all mine. Can't wait to get started.
And this is an exciting particular program. But before we start going into it, I would like to thank you for welcoming us into your home. We're not going to abuse that privilege.
No, we're not.
I'm sure we're going to learn quite a bit together. And I'm sure there's a lot that you will learn today to add to your repertoire. Let me thank Chineke for this wonderful day.
Yes.
It is a beautiful day outside, isn't it?
It is.
And we're grateful to be alive because many did not see this day. Every day we look in the news, we hear about people losing their lives to COVID. And Chineke has given us the privilege to continue to walk amongst the living. And that is what we're doing, enjoying walking amongst the living.
Say every day above ground is a good day.
6 feet above ground is cause for celebration.
Yes.
Cause for celebration.
Yes, it is.
And we certainly want to thank the ancestors because if it wasn't for the ancestors, we would not be here.
Yes.
So we are very grateful to them for laying their footsteps in the mud so that we can step in and finish the miles that they didn't live long enough to finish.
Yes.
Before we go any further, I'd like to offer an affirmation, because an affirmation is very important because what it does, it sets your mind and your spirit, in the right direction.
Yes.
If you're down, but you have an affirmation, you wake up,
You're lifted,
you're lifted up,
yes.
And that's what we want to do right now. I stand in the perfecting presence of Chineke. Right where I am, Chineke is.
Say.
Chineke is in the midst of me creating divine order through divine love. Divine order, hear what I said, through divine love. I fear nothing, seen and unseen.
Yes.
All the goodness in this universe, I am taking and claiming as my divine inheritance.
Oh, yeah.
I claim it. Chineke wike, God is power, I am powerful. God is joy, I'm joyful. Today I'm joyful, I'm peace-filled, I'm a loving human being because that's what Chineke is.
Yes.
And Chineke is peace. And if Chineke is peace, why should my heart be at unrest?
In turmoil.
In turmoil.
Yes.
So I'm good. And Chineke is the energy that brings goodness into my life. I claim that. Chineke is the reason for me to have confidence that there is no condition in the world that I cannot overcome. That there is no affliction in my body that I cannot overcome. It is because of Chineke that I know that there is no spirit in the world more powerful than my spirit. That the spirit of Chineke. So the spirit of Chineke renews me, reaffirms me, reassures me. All that I am, Chineke is. All that is noble, I am, and it is this truth I claim this day as my divine inheritance. Hear what I say. Okay. To Chineke se. I'm different. You can't tell me different. Do you understand what I'm saying? As long as you believe in Chineke, the power of Chineke in you, you cannot be weak. So how can I walk with the Creator and be weak? Then that becomes your choice. That has nothing to do with reality. Because you have to do what you seek, so shall you find. You want peace, you want joy, you want love. It's already there. Just go get it.
Yes.
Don't let anybody convince you that is their way or the highway.
No.
None of these people who are telling you all this were there when Chineke created you. The day you came into this world, they were not there. They had nothing to do with it.
Nothing to do
So how
with
can they tell you how close you can be to God? And so for that reason, I give thanks. I say, Ise, Ashe, and so it is. Yagazie.
To all of you.
All of you,
Yes.
you know, those of you who are out there struggling, who are experiencing so much pain. We have a little bit of good news. There's a doctor in England.
Yeah.
And the surgeon.
Yes.
And do you know what saved him?
What?
Besides the fact that, Chineke was working, for him.
Yes.
The nurses and the doctors looked at him. What is he? An oncologist? What is it?
He's a colorectal surgeon.
Surgeon.
Yeah.
And they said, "Oh, we can't lose this one.
We can't let this.
Oh, we can't. No, they said he is irreplaceable.
We have to save him.
We got to save him.
He's got the skills.
Yes, so
he's a lifesaver.
Because he is a lifesaver.
Yes.
So they saved him, and I pray that we continue to save as many people as necessary. One of the things I have to say that really is of concern to me is the level of need out there. The level of need is,
it's painful.
It's so painful. I get calls on top of calls every day. I'm asking everybody I can you help me help this person? Can you help me? And I'm very grateful.
Many people with needs.
Oh my God, it's astronomical.
And you feel frustrated that you can't help everybody.
Yes, you can't help everybody.
Yes.
But you know what I say? For those of you who belong to these churches, please, if you have the pastor's phone number, call him.
Particularly in Africa.
In Africa, call them, because there is no safety net, social net. There's nothing.
There's no safety net.
There's nothing. Yes, there's nothing for them. And since they have been very, supportive of these churches, this is the time
to prove yes.
that you love them, that you love your flock. I'm not trying to
where your mouth is.
I'm just trying to keep it real.
Yes.
I'm just saying. When you go all these people, there are so many of them who are hungry. I see pictures of mothers. One of the people who did a video for us just lost his 1-year-old son due to starvation. That is the most painful thing that I've ever seen.
Particularly some of these preachers that claim that they killed the sick and raised the dead. Now, if Jesus Christ fed 5,000 people with a loaf of bread, I'm sure you could pray to your God to be able to help feed people that are in need because of this pandemic.
Yes, the pandemic, it has really opened the underbelly of everyone, us too.
Yeah,
all of us.
What are we going to do?
What are we going to do? You can't talk about God to people, and when they need help, you can't help them.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that they're not other churches doing quite a bit. I'm sure they are. We're doing the best we can. We are feeding. And we're sending, we're supporting families.
If you make contributions on Sundays to a church, then you should expect them to be there for you in your time of need.
Of need, that's right.
It's just the way it is.
So I'm just asking for those pastors that are not doing their part, because I'm sure there are some doing their part. For those who are not, please, this is the time. This is the time that we show God's love.
Yes.
Chineke's love. I may not have much, but I'm going to go out there and see who I can get.
And please keep in mind, this is not the time to insist that your congregation show up in church on Sunday. See, because we have to minimize the spread of the coronavirus.
Yeah, it's not. It's not. This is the time. This is the time for you now to help your congregation, not for them. Don't go online and start asking them to give you money. They don't have it.
That's what they're doing right now.
Yeah, there's some churches that are saying that God will bless you if you put money in the,
people are quarantined. They're not working.
Cash out.
They're not earning anything.
But they're not making any money.
Yeah.
And they're starving. But you're telling them you're going to pray for them if they give you the money they don't have.
It doesn't work like that.
You don't think they're praying?
No.
They're praying.
There's an old saying that goes, "Heaven help those
who help themselves." So we just wanted to start this conversation with reminding everybody who has been taking money from congregants all these years, who have been accepting tithes, all of that good stuff. It is time to give back. Because I asked this for all the Christians, what would Jesus do? Jesus will not sit and play video games. and hobble in the house.
And tell you to download an app.
Tell you download an app.
So that you could donate to the church.
According to your Bible, he fed the poor. Is that not true? He turned water into wine. Yes. It's time for you pastors to start doing the same thing. Yes. Turn that money into food. Did I say it right?
Turn the money
into food and feed.
And it's not magic either.
Anybody can do that. You can do it. I'm not putting down pastors. They are powerful pastors who are doing all kinds of things. All of us right now, we have a responsibility to help humanity. We don't just help Chiis.
No,
the people who come to us, we help everybody. And we're not just helping Igbos. For those who think that, no, I've got Yoruba, Hausa, Efik, anybody.
Anybody that needs help.
Anybody who needs help
has
our ears. Yeah. And it is important that we know that. It is important that we know that. So anyway, the conversation today is a powerful one. Because we asked the question, are African women destructive? You go ahead. You're going to start that conversation.
That's a tough one. When you ask that question, we have people calling in and sending us emails and texting us and talking about, are we trying to put African women down? No, that's not what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is just remind African women of their responsibility in nation building. I'm going to read something to you, and then we could talk about it. Mm-hmm. And what I'm going to read is going to kind of create a good picture of exactly what role African women play in cultural promotion and nation building.
Yes.
Women play a critical role in the community and have a significant position in society, and therefore are not inferior to men. Mm-hmm. They have the ability, fitness, and quality necessary to do or achieve, and are quite capable of dealing with all the responsibilities in a society.
Yes. Man
and woman, they're like your right hand and your left hand, and you need both of them when you're trying to lift heavy loads. Yes. And what do I mean by lifting heavy loads? Mm-hmm. I'm talking about in building a nation.
Yes.
You need the same level of input from a man and a woman to be able to build, maintain, and manage a nation. Now, in primordial African culture, women are accorded an equal position in a society. Ancient Africans understood the power of women to aspire and achieve, and they were able to achieve very dignified positions in the community. Nonetheless, the primary responsibility, and I want to stress this, the primary responsibility of a woman is to preserve the human race, to preserve the community. Mm-hmm. And as a mother, a woman's position is very unique. It is often said that mothers are the first school that a child attends. Napoleon once said, "Give me a good mother and I will give you a nation."
So what you're saying, let's just pick it up from there. Mm-hmm. What you're saying is there is no nation without the input of the women.
Of the women, none whatsoever.
Because, we have some individuals who call and say, oh, women have nothing to do with this. Wait a minute. You're discounting power.
That's 50% of your productive capacity.
That's 50% of who you own. That means one-legged man can go into battle. You need both legs. The other leg is your woman. When you discount her significance,
exactly,
you forget that the leadership starts with her. The highest leader in the world is the mother.
Is the mother. It is.
Now, we may have leaders in boardrooms. Yeah, we've got that.
It starts at home.
But it's the big leader is the one that shapes the mind.
Yes.
Of the children.
Yes.
And each time that we are not, or at least women are not assessing and reassessing
their role, yes,
then we continue to see a pattern that goes from generation to generation. When something is wrong in an organization, what do? You call a meeting. so that we can assess the problem and say what is wrong and how can we correct it.
Absolutely. What have we been doing wrong?
Yeah, what have we been
do we
doing
need to
wrong?
do to set things straight?
That's right. And it doesn't mean, and the women who kind of get upset that, oh, you're saying women are destructive. It brought you to the table. That was the whole idea. Just bring you to the table. But the point we're trying to make is you're so powerful, you're underutilized. And because you're underutilized, your power is underutilized, it is then creating a character that is not beneficial to our people. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I just had to.
No, that was absolutely necessary. Now, let me continue reading this. The stability and the progress of a nation is determined by the way the mothers raise their children, which is pretty much the core of what it is that we're talking about today. If the mothers have the right kind of culturally relevant education, the society will flourish. What do I mean by this? If they are able to impart culturally relevant knowledge in their children, it promotes communal responsibility, self-love, and gives the children the impetus for nation building. What happens when women raise children that are not grounded in their primordial core? What happens to a generation of children raised by mothers who insist on alienating children from culturally relevant information and history, which are prerequisites to nation building? Let's stop there, for example, for a moment. What do I mean by culturally relevant education? We could start with self-love, how you see yourself. I mean, look at you, okay, Dibia. Beautiful, short hair, looking all African, dignified.
Thank you.
You don't see a lot of that. What do you see? How do women define beauty to their sons and mothers in our African community? How do you see your dark skin? How do you see your hair? Do you consider nappy hair a bad thing? Do you impart upon your children that the way they look is divine in nature? That's how God intended it for survival reasons. Why is it that we as melanated people are able to withstand the heat in sub-Saharan Africa without skin cancer and all that kind of stuff? How do African women look at themselves? What is their definition of beauty? Is the beauty that the African woman sees defined by outside forces? Do you have to have long, straight hair to be considered beautiful? Do you have to be very light-skinned? And by the way, Africans come in all shades. Light-skinned, dark, chocolate, caramel, you name it, we have it. Do you insist upon, as a dark-skinned African woman, that for you to consider yourself beautiful, that you have to peel your skin?
But you talk about that in terms of who's teaching them that.
Exactly.
Who is teaching the Oprah Winfrey? Now I just want to read something Oprah Winfrey said. Yes. Oprah Winfrey said, if you are willing to deal with the past, you can make the moment rich.
Yes.
Our past is what shapes who we are. It's what creates the patterns.
Exactly.
So as parents, as mothers, and that's why I say that we are underutilized. As mothers, we are responsible for the self-esteem of our children, of our girls in particular, the self-esteem. And I'll talk about what we do to our boys. When you say to your girl, you are fat.
That is terrible. I mean, you
are fat. First of all, what you're telling her, she's not good. Well, not all fat people are, I mean, they're beautiful fat people.
About the idea of fat. In some African cultures, being fat is a beautiful thing. Remember, we're talking about culturally.
But that's how you say. But that's how you say it. But that's how you say it.
Yeah.
It depends on how you say it. If you say, "Girl, you're so fat,"
it's okay. Wrong.
And then some people can't lose weight.
Yeah.
No matter how they try. So for the most part, you make them feel very bad about who they are. Or you say to them, "You're too dark."
Yeah.
You're too dark. Now on a G, let me say how we say it in Igbo. Make on a G can shake.
Go ahead and say it in English.
In English, that you are as black as poop.
Yeah. Think about that.
Think about that.
The
Because
level
a
of
child,
self-hatred.
the damage
Yeah.
you do to that
And the
child.
children hear you saying that. How do you think they're going to feel about themselves?
But what about your son? What about your son hearing you talk about her dark-skinned sister?
Yeah.
As if she's not pretty. Do you understand? So he himself gets the idea that having a light-skinned wife is better than having a dark-skinned wife. You know, there are some places where you fetch more dowry if the wife is light-skinned.
Light-skinned, yeah.
Who does that? There are some mothers. Now, this may be painful for some of y'all to hear, but it's true. There are some mothers who actually say to their sons, don't marry a dark-skinned woman because I don't want dark-skinned grandbabies.
Imagine that.
Your hair is kinky. She's got kinky hair. She's got good hair. It's not just in Africa. It happens here too.
Yeah. We're talking about the African community.
The African community. Yeah, that's right.
Whether you're an African in Australia, South America, United States, in Africa, the continent itself, in Europe, it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter.
That mental deficient way of thinking is global.
It's
in our community.
But the point we're trying to make certainly is for us moms, rethink. We are feeding this.
Yes.
It's the little girl that they showed in the video. And this precious little thing. The hairdresser was trying to tell her she was lovely, but presented her with a mirror and she lost it. And she cried and said, I am so ugly. The hairdresser was trying desperately to convince her, no, you're not ugly. But then the question is, who taught her that?
The mother.
Who taught her that she's ugly? Somebody said that to her.
Yeah.
That's why she believed that she's ugly. Okay? And then we have a tendency to tell our girls, you're just a girl.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Diminishes their capability.
Yeah, this is what boys do.
Yeah.
You shouldn't do that. You should, or we have our girls do the cleaning. They do the sweeping. And the boy is playing with his video games, and his room is a mess, and then mom comes in and picks up after him, and that's perfectly okay. No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Because like I said, we're building the character. When I was in Michigan, I visited a woman who had these big boys. They were like, they were really top, they were football players, right? Yeah. And they didn't even acknowledge us, the elders, when we walked in. And they told their mother, when their mother said, we clean up this stuff, why would you happy if I did? They told them, I'll shove, ma. They were so rude to her, and she just shook her head. I said, no. No, you can't do that. You
gotta arrest them from when they're little.
No, we told her no.
Yeah, you have to arrest them from when they're little, so that way they could, respect their elders. I mean, what you tell children when they're little.
Yes.
Right? Makes a difference, a lot of difference in how they perceive themselves and how responsible they feel in terms of the upward mobility of the community. Yeah. There has to be a level of self-love which comes from the family. There has to be a level of community responsibility where you feel like your contribution to the upward mobility of the community is what makes you. Right? Yeah. That's what defines you. That's what makes your life worthwhile. That is your responsibility.
That's right.
To make sure that the generation that comes after you have global opportunity to be able to sit at the table and dine with king.
That's right.
To be treated with respect. If the people that you deal with don't think that you respect themselves, they're not going to respect you. They're just not going to do it. They take the cues based on how you see your own self.
That's right.
How you define yourself and what the expectations are from you, from them when they are in the boardroom with you. No matter where you are, you have to look at yourself as somebody who is on the same footing. Don't look at yourself as being superior. But I don't believe that any race is more superior than the other one. We're all God's creations. We're all created for a purpose. And of course, our geography plays a large part in culture promotion, the kind of culture that permeates the community, and how we see ourselves. It's just based on geography. That's just the way it is. And then, of course, your historical and cultural experiences. But I just want to ask one question. Why do a majority of African women insist on instilling alien cultures in the children, thereby guaranteeing that the next generation of Africans see no value in themselves or Africa's contribution to civilized behavior? It's funny that when we leave Africa, we're very successful outside of it. Some of the best doctors in the world are Africans. They live abroad. Some of the best engineers in the world are Africans. They live abroad. Some of the best of everything that is part of nation building are Africans, and they live abroad.
That's right.
Why is it that in Africa itself, we don't encourage our children to look inward? Instead, we talk about them going outside of Africa, going outside of our communities to, have better opportunities.
Well, it's important to know in every African community all over the world, we always promote the Eurocentric schools.
Thank you.
We send our children to Eurocentric schools,
yes,
where they are taught not to appreciate themselves,
yes,
but they are taught how to be good stewards
yes,
of Eurocentrism.
That's
They're not taught African centered education. So people are craving. Where did your child go to school? I mean, he got admission to Harvard, to Howard, to whatever. Now, in all honesty, you look at different countries and see the people who actually are engaged in community, in the well-being of the community. Where did they go to? They didn't go to Harvard. They didn't go to Howard. They didn't go to Howard. Is good. They went to local universities.
Yes.
We have this tendency, and mothers, this is the argument. Be careful what you are doing and saying to the child. If you say to the child that some of these black universities are no good, okay, you send in a powerful message.
It is.
This person's son is going to Harvard. You should go to Harvard or Princeton.
And what level of cultural promotion exists in your household?
Yeah, well, there you go. But because it's not there, you don't promote it. So you seek for them to go outside. I cannot tell you how many of our mothers teach our children not to speak Igbo.
Oh man, that's so sad. I've seen a lot of that stuff.
I see children walking with their parents and speaking. They can't articulate anything.
And the mom is African,
Igbo,
or Igbo. The dad is African or Igbo,
or whatever
but
African.
Igbo is not allowed to be spoken in the home.
No.
I mean, how do you expect your children to be proud of who they are and to look inward and to understand what they need to do?
That's right.
For themselves.
That's right.
For the future of their community and their country.
But can I stop you there? If you don't have respect for your country or your community, you do things that abuse your community.
Yes.
What do I mean by that? If I haven't taught my son to respect women, then he can say, well, I gotta pee.
Yes.
And he'll stand out there and whip it out. I'm sorry. I've seen that.
Yeah.
And they pee in front of everybody. And now we're talking about COVID-19.
Yeah.
That's you're peeing all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now the argument is, well, there's no way to use the bathroom. Yes. Find a bush. Hold it till you get to the bush. I was in Nigeria and I was walking down the street and this guy was getting ready. I said, hold it right there. Don't do that. Go find a bush.
Yeah.
I don't need to see that. It's disrespectful. If you are taught to respect yourself and respect your community and respect your women, no man will be standing there doing that because we accept it.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not saying that we tell them it's okay. It's that we don't say anything. We instead we blame it on the government. the government does not provide somewhere for them to go and use the bathroom. I mean,
it's
come
true.
on.
Now, I understand that a lot of self-rejection that goes on in our families and in our communities in terms of African culture has its roots in slavery and colonization, right? Mm-hmm. And what we call invented traditions. I'll give you an example. I had an argument with somebody, we were having a discussion. It wasn't necessarily an argument because I had the higher ground. And he was talking about the fact that in Africa, people use human body parts to make voodoo to become wealthy.
That's right.
And I said to him, and he said, and that's African culture. That's a part of, you always talk about African culture. That's a part of African culture that I just can't stand. I said, let me tell you something, man. I said, this is what you call a bastardized economic modernity. What do I mean by that? Before the European came to Africa, were Africans killing anybody to make money? Mm-mm. Were we doing voodoo with human parts to make money? And a lot of times, people that are killed are harvested for body parts, which are sold to European countries for money. There has never been anywhere in African cultural history where somebody's gonads yield a cash after they went into the bush and did some kind of voodoo or whatever, and all of a sudden you're a rich man. It never happened until we were enslaved, specifically colonized.
Yes.
That's when some of these things that we ascribe to African culture and tradition came up. Mm-hmm. Never existed before the European came to Africa. Mm-hmm. So we have to be very careful when we talk about African culture. We need to specifically figure out or do some research and find out, did these so-called voodoo exercises exist before we were colonized?
If you don't teach your children to have confidence, they're not going to ask these kinds of questions.
They're not going to.
They're not going to have the answers for it.
They wouldn't.
You know what? What COVID has done, when all is said and done, it has opened the underbelly of African people.
Yeah.
Because what it is showing is, what are we really made of?
Yeah.
We have a disease that didn't ravage us now. Now think about this. It didn't ravage us.
Nope.
All of a sudden, I mean, it's all over the world, but all of a sudden it's crept into Africa.
Yeah.
And then we're being told that we're being told that that has happened again. We're being told that about 500,000 Africans would die. Now, mind you, so far we haven't even had 10,000 deaths in the whole continent. We're still in the hundreds. But we've just been told that about 500,000 would die of COVID. Wait a minute. If that was the case, they say it has something to do with not being tested. I think we talked about this before. If we have not been tested, we should be dying. Anyway.
Africa has 1.216 billion people in it. And we've only had like 300 and something, deaths from COVID.
And now we are waiting. You know what? I've got to say this. I'm very excited about the fact that Madagascar, the African Union, has advised African countries to take advantage of what Madagascar is offering. Madagascar says that they have found a cure. Good, bad, or indifferent. They claim that it's curing their people, and they have very low death due to COVID in Madagascar. And they say that it's based on this natural herb.
Within 10 days, you'll be cured.
Now, within 10 days, they are coming out of COVID. But the rest of the world doesn't want it. Because it's coming from
from Africa.
Look, the rest of the world can do what they want to do. It's perfectly okay. I have no problems with that. But now that the Africans are saying, hey, one of our brothers said that we got something. African Unity, Organization of African Unity says, go to Madagascar, get what they have, try it before we bring all those vaccines
Yeah.
and all of that stuff.
Let's try this first.
As a matter of fact, what in the past we were doing is we allow whomsoever to come into our nation, and they do, and they take. Matter of fact, they just arrested in Elisha some Chinese who were stealing gold.
The mine.
They were mining illegally gold,
Yeah.
So so much has been going, and people have been coming and taking and doing, but all of a sudden, the people are waking up and saying, "Back up,
back up,
back up. Let's look. Let's see what it is. We can do. Let us stop depending on anybody but ourselves. Let us stop cultivating other people's minds when ours is not being done. It is time for us to find cures for whatever ails us. It is time for us to look to ourselves to find solutions. Stop thinking. But that's what I mean by the character of a nation.
And we don't want to sound as if we're, trying to diminish the African woman. What we're actually trying to do is uplift our thinking, the way we think.
Remind us how powerful we are.
If we, as Africans, see, 70% of the congregation in church on Sunday are women. Women are emotional creatures. I haven't heard a woman call a preacher daddy, and the husband was sitting right there. Isn't that sad? But that's for another show. If we put the same level of energy that we put in when we dress up looking nice and cute, looking to see what the Okerekes are wearing, Mrs. Okereke or Mrs. Jones is wearing on Sunday, and we incessantly, without fail, go to church to re-socialize our children into alien spiritual doctrines and values. If we can use the same energy that we use on Sundays to look inward, go back to our roots, learn about African proverbs, parables, how our great-grandmothers and our grandmothers raised children who are culturally conscious. Remember, a lot of our male and female leaders of the past that gave us the roadmap that we're enjoying today. The Nelson Mandelas, the Julius Nyereres, the Marcus Garveys, right?
Yes.
The Booker T. Washingtons,
yes.
the Jomo Kenyattas, the
K.O.K.
Lumumbas, the K.O.K. Onyiohas. These were people that received culturally relevant education at home. Do you know that right now in our international African community, we cannot boast of such leaders? Why is that? You ask yourself.
I'm trying to read some of these things.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Why is that? Think about that. Instead, we have leaders, like I think the last show we had, I mentioned that as a culturally sensitive person, I couldn't run for political office where I come from because I'm not Christian, I'm not Muslim. Unless I embrace something that is alien to me, surmount my cultural, relevant education with something that is alien. Unless I claim something that I'm not, I have no political future where I come from. Most men that go to church on Sunday go because of their wife. Sometimes you hear, particularly African American women, and African women do the same thing too. They say, I want a good Christian man. What does that mean? Does it mean that if I'm not Christian, that I can't be a good husband? That I can't be a good provider? That I can't be a good man? Why does me not being a good Christian man disqualify me from being a good man?
And that's what is the problem. We have a range of religions.
Yes.
We have a range of religions. Each one of them have good in them. There's no religion who goes out here and says, go kill, go murder, go steal. No, all of them, their foundational principles are always positive.
To guide you closer to the mystery of God.
You know,
That's what
so when we become That I have some individuals who have contacted me. They're Muslim. There are some of them who are Christians, you know, but they are hungry. At that moment, I see human beings.
Yes.
I'm a mother.
The way it should be.
I see a human being in need. Their tribe, their religion becomes inconsequential. It has nothing to do with the reality of the moment.
The moment, yes.
Because
absolutely.
thus far, that their specific religion has not done anything for them. That's why they came to me.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? So I cannot then say, oh, well, you're not a Chiist, so I'm not going to help you.
No,
there was a reason why they came to me.
Yes.
You know, whether they understand it or not understand it, there's a reason. They were looking for help. They couldn't get it.
I mean,
you know,
Jesus was not a Christian. Muhammad was not a Muslim. Buddha wasn't a Buddhist.
All those are man-made religions. Man-made those.
We created this human system.
But then we,
and that's it.
And that's why it's so important for us to understand how important we are as women. We're the ones teaching these things.
Yes, we
and
are.
you know, we can get upset all we want, but it is true. It is true. We are the ones who are passing this on. So we got to get to the table and say, when it comes to self-esteem building, what can we do differently?
Yes.
What are we saying to our children that we must stop saying so that we can build their confidence? What is it we're saying to our children that we must stop saying so that they don't feel inferior to another person, to another gender, so that they know that they have all that it takes, that they were given all they need to be all that they can be, and when they are all that they can be, they are able to pass that on to their own children. Somebody says brainwashing. Brainwashing. We are brainwashed. We're brainwashed by the colonial masters, and then we take that up, take it to our homes, then brainwash our children. It is our responsibility to say to our sons, you are a man, but your manhood is tied around your ability to be respectful and loving and supportive and not undermined, because a one-legged man cannot go to battle. I don't care what anybody told with one leg. Your partner is that woman. Give her room and you'll be amazed what she can achieve. Because she's raising your children. She's building the character of the nation. So if you're undermining, somebody said, well, women should just sit at home and cook and clean and this, that, and the other. I said, okay, and then raise the children. That is the
how about
raise the children. Well, that's what we're saying. She's raising the children.
Yes.
And if she's not raising them right, she is developing the culture, the character of our nation. How our children act, how competitive our children are, really stems from what we women are teaching them.
Absolutely. Listen, this conversation can be had a million ways. Just like you say, I want a good Christian man. I want a good Muslim man. Whatever your foreign religion affiliation may be. How about, I want a man that is proud of being an African. I want a man that is proud of their African culture. That's the kind of man I want. What we as men and women think of ourselves is usually based on what mama taught us.
That's right.
I mean, there's no ifs or buts about it. There's no argument when it comes to this specific fact. Men usually will go to church with their wives just to keep peace. Women are emotional, like I said, and they go there. How about talking a little bit more about our primordial core? What is it? I mean, come on, let's ask ourselves this question. Exactly what is it that the European brought to us that we didn't have already?
That we didn't have already.
Culturally speaking, okay? Let's just do that. Even science. Did we cure diseases before they came? Did we take care of sick people? Did we do that? Do we have a school of medicine? Do we worship God before they came? Did we respect women? What is it that the European gave us that we didn't already have? All they did was say, we know you have the same system as we do, but we're going to disregard or discredit yours and supplant it with ours. So you're now running around in the desert waiting for rain. We're like zombies.
Yeah, but as long as we keep excusing women, we miss
We
the
can't.
point.
We
You
can't.
can't, not anymore.
No.
It's a new world order. That new
Absolutely.
world order cannot be what other people set up for ourselves.
We gotta set it up for
We need to
ourselves.
set it up for
For
ourselves.
ourselves.
And
I
we
mean,
need
that's the way it
to
is.
get to the table quickly. Education. I don't say, and I mentioned it earlier about Ivy League schools. I don't say don't go to Ivy League schools. But the reason why African-centered schools, universities are struggling is because we don't even support them.
We don't. And even those African-centered schools don't necessarily teach you much about Africa.
Well,
and it's appreciation.
Yeah, well,
I mean, come on, let's be honest. Africa's got a whole bunch of universities in there.
Yeah.
But they're telling me that Mungo Park discovered the Niger River. I learned that in Nigeria. I didn't learn it outside. I didn't learn that outside Nigeria. So we may have all these black universities. We have them all over Africa. But how many black universities, like Brandeis University in Washington, was built and established for the interests of black people, and that it will stay that way, and if you don't like it, let the door hit you?
You know, one of the other things that it's based on what you're saying, one of the things that many of us find uncomfortable, I hate to say that, gosh, I hate to say that, but we find it uncomfortable being black.
And being critical of ourselves.
Some of us, not all of us certainly,
yeah,
but a lot of us, once you start talking black, you're talking that black stuff. You're talking about, what do you think everybody else is talking?
Yeah.
When China is talking about China, you think they're talking about black folks?
They're talking about
when the Europeans are talking about Europeans, you think they're talking about black folks? But we want them to help us when we don't want to embrace us. We want them to embrace us. Look, we have to. It doesn't mean we stop being a part of the rest of the world. No, it doesn't mean
it's
that.
a given.
It's a given.
Yeah.
We're going to have to be a part of the world. But we have to start being comfortable talking about ourselves. We have to start being comfortable and not be, act like sheep and scared when you talk about. That's one thing about me. And I'll say this to you, my brothers and sisters. And some people don't appreciate it, but that's okay.
It's time for the truth.
Because
and that's just the way it is.
My parents taught me to be a proud black woman. I was not taught to be scared to speak up. And that's what I'm talking about, the character. Who's building up? My mother was, she's still living.
Yeah.
She is feisty. And you can tell her what she couldn't do. You can tell, and she didn't tell us what we could not do. So we have that responsibility now to stop being scared to be who we are or to talk about our things. Because I'm not looking to any European or any Chinese or anybody to do for me, then I should be able to speak up.
Yes.
I'm not in your territory. I'm not asking you to do anything for me. I'm saying I want to do for my people. I want to see what role I can play.
Yes.
As a woman.
Yeah.
To change the character of my children who become the leaders of tomorrow.
A friend of mine posted a picture on Facebook, a lady friend, people we've known since childhood,
yes,
from Enugu, before the war.
Yeah.
And she had posted a picture of her 14-year-old son. That was maybe 6 years ago on Facebook or something like that. He was being knighted or whatever in the Catholic Church.
Yeah, some people are trying to get
it. And the kid had all this, Catholic whatever with a sword and white gloves and all that stuff. And this 14-year-old boy is standing there. The mom and dad is just, they're both brimming, with a pride. And I'm sitting there going, you could have just taken that kid to the village to go through rites of passage. So that they have some kind of spiritual, cultural core to them. How do you think that kid standing there with a sword, being knighted in the Catholic Church, exactly how do you think that he's going to impact his community positively in terms of trying to uplift it build it, and let the world see us as people that are capable of original thought and people that have contributed to civilized behavior.
China was colonized. India was colonized.
Yep.
Many other countries were colonized. We were not the only ones who were colonized.
Yep.
But if you go to India today, you see the Taj Mahal.
Yeah.
You still see Indians, some of them are Christian.
Yeah.
You understand? But they have not abandoned.
Buddhists, Hindus, they're all there.
They're all
Sikhs,
there.
yeah.
Working together. But in our case, we have decided that to be a spiritual being is not enough. We cannot teach our children to be spiritual beings as their ancestors were. They have to be something different. And when we do that, we make them, and that's that part of education I'm talking about. You make your children very weak.
Very weak. Subservient.
Spineless. They can't aspire, or they can't see themselves. Oh, academically, yes.
Yeah, I mean,
but when in the committee of other people, they tend to become mute. Literally, not all of them, certainly, And then let's talk about what we as mothers do, not you.
I'm a mother.
But what we as mothers do, okay, we restrict the spiritual arena for our children.
We do.
We restrict it. What our father did, our father made sure that we studied world religions.
Yes.
He made sure that we studied it.
Mom was
an
advocate. Yeah.
My mother was an advocate of studying everything we could learn and then take your pick. Which one makes sense to you? We need to do that. We need to start teaching our children
to
question everything. And look,
everything.
even if it goes against what you, mom and dad, believe, give them the opportunity to draw their own conclusions. Because the same God that created you created them. And if they're wrong, Chineke will take care of that. But give them the opportunity to, to learn.
Yeah. Hold that thought right there. Just hold it right there. Very quick. Knowledge is based on trial and what? Error. So, just like you were saying, let them try. If they fail,
that's what everybody else
does.
That's
what everybody does. You got to crawl before you walk.
That's right.
Children, you're born. The first thing the child does is they're comfortable on their back.
That's right.
Then they're comfortable on their stomach.
Yes.
Then they start to crawl.
That's right.
Then they start to walk. Give your children that same kind of opportunity in terms of their mental development, in terms of their responsibility to their community. It is on you. We will get to the men later. That's another show. But this is about you ladies out there. The African woman is very powerful. Women in general are very powerful. And women have the responsibility of nurturing children. And you must nurture them in the right way. That's right. Not just tell them you got to go get a college degree and then you can go and work for Ford Motor Companies and help them build cars in America, but you got manufacturing companies in Africa and those same kids ain't there. You understand what I'm saying? They're not there building it because you've already told them that anything that is foreign is superior to what they have.
But what about what is the name of the
Innocent Motors?
Innocent Motors. We should be buying from him
big time.
We should be because his work is just as good.
4 or 5 of every car in Nigeria should be Innocent Motors.
Should be innocent. That's how we grow. But we need to. But if you're teaching our children that foreign things are better, then the things that are created in their own communities, in their own environment, will never grow. They will never grow. Then, so what is the effect of all that we are doing? Now, let me reiterate, mothers. This is not talking about when we talk about are you destructive? We're talking in terms of some of the things that we're teaching our children become destructive when it's not good for nation building.
Yes.
So we need to just make sure that's what we're saying. I'm not talking about you as a person being bad. No. It's just some of those things that we are doing. Our children lack confidence. And I'm not talking about academically. They've got that.
Yeah. That's
innate in them. They are powerful. These kids, African children, can create all kinds of stuff.
I mean,
they can create, but guess what? After they create it, nobody's interested unless they go outside.
Yeah. How does that creativity amplify your growth?
That's right.
Back home?
That's right.
What good is your education if you cannot apply it locally?
That's right.
What use are you? I mean, like I said again, if you're a medical doctor, but you're not helping heal the sick back home, but you're performing surgeries in Los Angeles, what use are you? And a lot of times, it's not so much as the fault of the mothers, but also, you can attribute that to the leadership back home that does not create an environment that allows, you know what I'm saying? African, children or people with the expertise that is needed for nation building to build up Africa, which is, it's very tragic, But then again, you look at what's going on in Africa. Remember, before the Civil War in Nigeria, for example, we didn't have these issues. You had leaders that were grounded in African cultural, way of doing things. That's and right. Have this community responsibility mind frame.
Yes.
So they did a lot of stuff. Mandela's love for his people is what put him in jail for 30 years and he came back out. Winnie Mandela's love for people, for her people, she took a lot of abuse. Winnie Mandela gave up the ghost for her people. Such leadership doesn't exist anymore.
Well, it's getting a little bit better. I think that
with our kids.
Our kids.
The children are taking up the mantle.
They are.
To seek knowledge.
They are.
And see, and chart their own future. Because let's just be honest, apart from feeding them, putting them through college, they've really experienced a lot of disappointment in their parents.
Oh, yeah.
I talk to my son, I talk to his friends. There's a level of disappointment that they have because what is being taught to them in church on Sunday is not what they're seeing in the real world.
They're not seeing that.
They're not seeing that in the real world.
The very people who are abusing them when they get in the car to drive.
The ones shooting them in the back.
The ones shooting them, they're not African traditionalists.
It's their God that you're worshiping on Sunday in church. Or you go to the mosque. I mean, look at the Arabs. I mean, what is happening to Africans in Libya, in Algeria?
Oh my goodness.
What's going on over there?
Everywhere.
Africans are being enslaved everywhere, and yet you have these people defending the same doctrines that continue to justify your enslavement in the first place.
Okay, and then we talk about, well, what about the leaders? It is the leadership. Our leadership has a responsibility, to create opportunities for our children, but majority of voters are women.
Yes.
Majority of voters are women. When they give us a bag of rice or a sewing machine or some little item like that, we vote for them.
That's it.
They promise us heaven and earth.
They don't think about their children.
We're not talking about the impact on our children. They promise us heaven and earth that they never deliver. They don't deliver, but they know if they give you a bag of rice and give you 5,000 naira or whatever it is they give you, you're going to vote for them. Once you vote for them, they move up, they go on. They don't even see you anymore.
And if your preacher tells you, don't worry about what's going on with you in the world today, just, obey, do what we want you to do, so that when you die, you could get your blessings in heaven. No, I want my blessings here right now. And that's what women, and like I said, we'll get to men later. These are the kinds of things that you should be speaking with your kids about.
Yes. So we talked about African. What impact do women have on primordial African culture? We used to teach our children with proverbs.
Yeah.
I'm not putting down any books. Books are good for them to learn how to read.
You got to expand your mind.
But not only that, it helps them learn how to read.
Yeah.
So that's good. But the proverbs is what we used
Life lessons.
Life lessons.
Yes.
And they drummed it on us. You can tell the guy who talk and you know, all those things.
Can you say that again? But you know, interpret that in English. Both of them.
Yes, you know, the ears that don't listen ultimately will hear it in the bad man's bag.
Yeah,
that means
the head is cut off.
That means your head will be cut off and put in the bag. So you better listen when you're being taught. Your parents will sit there, mom will sit there and tell you why it's important to listen. And they'll tell you about the mores, the laws, and the land. Remember when the children were young, parents, mothers used to send them to age group meetings.
Meetings,
We
yeah.
used to have age group. Once you're age 10, you have to get up and go and meet with your age group. And they sit there, mothers will sit and watch them make decisions about their communities. But they are taught how to make decisions that will impact positively on the community. This is what we did. We need to do that again. We need to start setting the standards for our children based on what they need to do for the betterment of our communities. Not what they need to do just to benefit somebody else. They are tapping the minds of our children for their own good.
Believe me, the men will follow.
And look, the man issue is a totally different discussion. We're talking about our sisters today, but I know where you're going with that. But we'll talk about that a little later. But the bottom line is, we are so important. Look at leadership, okay? Majority of the women are voters, but we don't vote for women. Then we create the impression that women are not good leaders. So we, you know, I was listening. This was a American lady that was talking about the fact that she couldn't vote for a woman. Yeah, she couldn't vote for Hillary because women don't make good presidents. They're very emotional. And they will not make. She will get the hormones will go. So the guy asked her, I said, "Well, who's the president right now? is he a woman?
And how many wars were
started by women? But then we give the impression that only men can be leaders. Look at the whole world. I think you have about 4 or 5 female leaders.
Yeah.
There's a whole world.
Pakistan had a female president.
You know, but we need to teach our children that it's okay to select a female to do certain things. If we start doing it ourselves, sometimes women just don't trust each other. We don't support each other. So you can have a very good leader and they'll tear her down in a heartbeat. I'm sorry to say that, but we are the ones doing that. So we select poor leaders. I'm sorry. When you look at all the leaders in the world,
truth has to be told.
We are the ones selecting these people, and then when we get into an organization, so just like we go into all these religious organizations, we become the tools for spreading it.
There you go.
We spread it in the community. We spread it through our families. We make our husbands become whatever it is we want to become. Come on. If anything is going to change in the African world, women must play a critical role.
Yes.
We cannot anymore sit in the back of the bus or stay in the caboose. It is time to come to the front and do what it is we must do. Yes. Now, the men will have to get used to this, because all of a sudden, you know what is going to happen? They're going to notice that life is getting a little bit easier. We don't have to carry all this load. We have somebody who can help us, but you got to open the door for them. You know, when you are constrained, it's difficult for you to think, to have a holistic attitude.
There are lots of men waiting for the women to take the lead in cultural promotion.
Yes.
We will come along.
And if they do, it's over.
It's over.
If women take control of our culture, encourage their sons and daughters to embrace their culture, Africa will shoot up there.
That's it.
Africa will shoot up there.
That's a key.
But it will not happen unless we come in. Because if all we're doing is propagating belief systems and cultures and things that are really foreign to us, and does not in any way encourage us to embrace ourselves in totality, have a wholesome attitude towards ourselves, not just the academic, because what we have right now is people who are academically achievers. Our people achieve academically, but that's
they're
where it
failing
stops.
everything else.
That's
because
where it
we don't
stops.
have that grounding. We don't have that level of responsibility in terms of our community to take expertise and help to build ourselves up.
We have to do that.
And it's very
we have to do that because I believe very firmly, as soon as the women come into the picture, as soon as the women begin to retrain, refocus, rebrand.
Yes, I like that word.
Rebrand the character of Africa. Everything will change. And that rebranding is not going to be a wishful thinking.
No.
That rebranding is something we have to do. You start today. Now, if you didn't do it yesterday, you have breath today, you're still breathing. That means you got another opportunity to get it right.
Yes.
Start today. Talk to your sons. Let them know to stop demeaning their women. Stop telling them it's okay to insult a woman. I'm not saying all women do that.
No.
But let them know to respect themselves, respect their community. If you want to be king, many of them call themselves kings. If you want to be a king, then don't act like a court jester to call you sir. You go out there, pick up a broom and clean your community. Help your sons to respect women. Moms, you have to do that. Help your daughters to feel enabled, to be empowered, to know that they can do, they are important.
To say, I am what I am by the grace of Almighty Chineke, I have a right, just like everybody else, to stand in my own truth and be appreciated and respected. And please treat me the way that you expect me to treat you.
That's right. Nobody gets respect that they don't earn.
Yes, you have to earn it.
If you want to earn the respect of the rest of the world, you're going to have to respect yourself. You start by showing your children love. You start by telling your children they are beautiful the way they are. Start by telling them not to change who they are, that they must learn, study, be all that they can be.
God doesn't make mistakes.
You know, God does not make it. That's right. That they are just as good as everybody else. You start with that. When you see your children, they may not look like somebody else's child,
but they're special.
They're special just the way they are. Stop comparing your children to other people. Stop telling your child, your girl child, that she's too dark, or your son that he's too dark. You tell them that he is Oto Chalata. Let them know that they are fruit. They're ripe fruit. They're beautiful. Let them know that. Build up their confidence. Let them know that they can go out there and be and challenge anything. That they can speak up. Teach them that. They only learn it if it comes from the house. Send them to schools where they will learn about how to build up their communities. Don't send them to where they'll be taught to serve. This is what we're doing. It is not in the name of the school that's significant. It is what the children learn and what they come out and do that tells us that they got an education. Let us teach our children how to respect their community. Keep it clean. If you see trash, that's what kills me. If you did not teach your child to be clean, if they see trash in the street, they walk right past it. I go for a walk, and I said it last time, I take a trash bag. Okay, and if I see trash with my gloves, I'll pick it up and put it in that trash bag because I want my neighborhood to look good. We need to teach our husbands to become independent as well. Stop babying them. You know what I'm saying? Stop babying them. They can do it. You're not loving them by not allowing them to cook for themselves when they can. You're not loving them when they can't wash their clothing. You're not loving them when you make them children. I'm sorry to say that.
And you're not loving them when they don't want to go to church on Sunday.
If they don't want to go, it's okay. Sunday is the time they take some time off, but you want them to go where they're going to be learning about someone else's history and not their own. So we could talk and talk forever, but the bottom line here is, ladies, you are important. We are so important, more important than we know. It is time for us to reevaluate how we're raising our children. Because when we raise them to appreciate African culture, their culture, because the Chinese are making their children appreciate their culture. The Europeans are doing the same thing. The Indians are doing the same thing. Everybody's doing the same thing. It is time that we do the same thing. Love who you are.
Yes.
As you are.
Yes.
You are God-given gift to humanity.
Yes.
And so it is. And sisters, you know I love you. You have a good day. Bye-bye. Thank you so much.
Yagazie to all.
Thank you for joining us.
Yes. Right. Do you save it? Because if you have to save it, if you have to save it first somewhere, click on that. Yeah. So that place you have to save it. Okay, well, I guess we'll go through that stuff again. Let's do that. So let's end it. End camera.